Welcome to Reality TV Cringe. I am one of your hosts, Delia, here with my real night home girl, Beatrice.
Hi.
How are you doing tonight? You seem cranky. You seem spicy.
Girl,
like you're about to get set off.
What are you even talking about? When I came over here, you're like, I'm feeling manic. I'm feeling a little weird.
I'm feeling.
She's spicy.
I'm on
giving
one
me attitude
tonight, so it might be a little fun.
Yeah.
Might be a little
and
fun.
you're drinking.
Well, just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
And when I drink whiskey,
Yeah.
I especially get spicy.
Crazy. Yeah.
Yes.
Your daughter's like that too.
Yeah. So who knows what's going to happen tonight?
Pray for me.
All right. We are here, the gathering of the raccoons in this dumpster, to discuss Welcome to Plathville and also 90 Day Fiancé.
Yes.
Very excited to get into all of it. But before we do, we have to remind you. Hide your wife, hide your kids. This is a politically incorrect podcast. We have stupid opinions.
Yep.
We are often offensive. We don't mean it, but we're just a couple people on the internet just trying to have some fun. And so if you're you might want to get in a different dumpster. You will not be comfy in this dumpy.
No. This dumpy. For real though.
Sorry.
Also, we got an Instagram at Reality TV Cringe. Go follow us there. And we got a Patreon, patreon.com/Reality TV Cringe, where we're covering a bunch of bonus shows up on there. You just have to go and see what's in the extra dumpsters.
100%. And also, if you are watching and enjoying us on YouTube, please do not forget to like and comment and share and definitely subscribe. Every little thing you do helps us to grow in the algorithm. And so we want to thank you in advance. Okay. Do we just want to jump right into Plathville?
Yes.
I'm so excited about it. I know you were texting me last night. You're like, ooh, this one was juicy.
It was juicy. I was watching it late last night, eating my snacks. I'm like, we got a lot to talk about from this episode.
Well, let's talk about major takeaways after you watched the episode. I'm sure 2 or 3 times like I did. Like, what are some of your lingering thoughts about the Plaths and Olivia?
A lot of drama. There's drama with Olivia. There's drama with Moriah.
Yes.
Drama with Kim and her hoe phase. I'm just like, wow, there's some things going on. And Micah is based.
Yes.
He is with it. He is analyzing everybody in this family, especially his mom. I'm like, I'm loving it.
Yeah. He's so mellow and neutral. Like, he clearly has an opinion about Olivia.
Yeah.
But he's not pushy with it. He's not punitive with it. He just kind of hangs back and lets Ethan do the talking.
Yeah.
And then just makes little comments. I really, really liked Micah in this episode.
Yeah, me too.
My major takeaway is that I think what we are observing as raccoons is a narcissistic injury in progress. So like a narcissistic injury is when a narcissist is offended, their self-worth is challenged, they feel abandoned and or rejected. And I think Olivia reaching out to Micah to try and have that one-on-one meeting was like a really important overture for her in terms of like how she felt about her power within the relationship and within the family. And I think it was like she was hoping that he would say yes and accept her.
Yeah.
And so then when he doesn't, he's like, nah, I just want to keep it light. I just want to go to the bar.
Not
I don't
interested.
want to have like an argument on my only day in Minnesota. Thanks, but no thanks. Ooh, I think it really, really hurt her.
Oh, totally. She is triggered.
She's really triggered.
Yeah.
And she's trying to use all of her therapy speak to pretend that it's not an injury, but it is. And I really think that this is the catalyst to everything finally falling all apart.
I felt the same way.
Yep.
Yep. Especially at the end when she's talking to Lydia Grace. I'm like, oh, shit.
She's ready to go. But I think Ethan's ready to go too.
Oh, yeah. He's over it.
When we see the previews for next week and they're having the conversation at the island, I'm just like, he already knows it's donezo.
Yes. I can't wait to get to that.
Yes, me too. Okay, let's start. Welcome to Plathville, Season 5, Episode 11, entitled The Wheel Is Come Full Circle.
Has come full circle?
The wheel is come?
Why?
I don't know, honey. Shakespeare.
I don't get it.
I don't understand it. It's 2023. We don't know how to speak Old English.
No.
We start with Ethan and Micah. They have arrived in Nashville. They've spent the night. They're going to get back on the road again. And they have a conversation about the divorce.
Yeah.
So what are some of your thoughts here?
I thought it was interesting how they both don't agree with their mom dating while she is still technically married.
Mhm.
They're not legally divorced. They are just separated. And so they both have very strong convictions with that. And this is where Micah starts talking about Kim's daddy issues.
Yes.
And I thought this was so awesome that he just like pegged his mom. Like, she didn't grow up with a father figure. She grew up in a very broken home. And he's like, even though it's kind of normal nowadays for people to have broken homes and single parents and stuff, he doesn't think it's a good thing because of how his mother is acting right now and how
Right.
she has daddy issues and she probably feels abandoned. So she searches for it with other men.
But why wasn't she searching for the attention from other men for the first 25 years of her marriage? She seemed content to have the attention from Barry and have the structure of her family, but something must have shifted and changed for her to all of a sudden need the attention of another man.
Yeah, I don't understand.
I don't understand it either. It's like something happened.
Yeah.
I think Olivia says in this episode, like a flip has been switched in her relationship, but it's almost like a flip has been switched with Kim.
Yes.
And she's chucked it all. And I think Ethan is really judgmental of his mother. I think in this moment, he's trying to say, well, I don't approve, but I'm not going to get into it because there's nothing that I can say that'll change anything. And also, nothing's going to change the course of action. However, he's really resentful that his mom is making all of these kinds of choices and decisions that will have lifelong impacts on his little sisters.
Yes.
And she doesn't even seem to really be thinking about it.
Yes. I'm so glad they brought this up because this is what we've been saying for the last several weeks, that Kim is just acting very immature and she doesn't give a shit about how any of her kids feel, especially the littles. And I think it was Micah that was like saying that this is the little kids' most formative years and that this is really damaging to them. And so they're just trying their best as older siblings to be there for them as much as possible. And I'm like, that's awesome.
It is awesome.
I'm glad they're growing up a little bit in this.
Yes. And they're looking for ways that they can kind of fill in or stand in the gap and be there for their younger siblings.
Yeah.
They also bring up Barry and they talk about Barry has essentially been doing everything right compared to Kim at the very least. Like he's not drinking alcohol, which I thought was interesting. And I'm wondering, has the DUI taken place? It has, right? Because the DUI took place, like she was pulled over summer of 2022. And I'm talking about Kim Plath.
Yeah.
And then I think they finally arrested her fall of 2022.
Yeah.
So I think the footage we're watching when they're driving up to Minnesota and it's obviously winter, this is well past Kim having been arrested.
Yeah, so TLC is intentionally keeping the information off the air, which is kind of lame because we all know it happened.
Right.
And I would love to know more context about it, but oh well.
We're not going to find out. But I think Ethan is kind of passively, aggressively calling his mom out for the drinking.
I love to see it.
Well, because for 25 years, you said drinking is bad, sugar is bad, television is bad, movies are bad, porn is bad, women are bad, Olivia is bad. And now all of a sudden, you're out here just slanging the poon, girl. Crazy.
Getting your box ate.
Yes.
Shit.
Micah asks at the end of this particular segment whether Olivia knows that he's coming. And Ethan kind of equivocates. He says yes, and he thinks she's cool with it. But in reality, Ethan hasn't told Olivia that Micah's coming. He doesn't even know if he's going to take Micah to the apartment. He hasn't told Micah that Olivia's pissed at him. He hasn't told anybody anything. He's just hoping to show up in Minnesota and have everything be okay.
This is so bad, Ethan.
Classic Ethan.
So freaking bad just because you're so conflict averse and you can't just be honest with your brother. I mean, your brother will probably take it well, but I'm like, Jesus, this is so bad. You can't just like pretend like everything's fine and then hope that it'll work out for the best. Like, you know, this is going to cause issues.
You're literally setting up your brother for like a bad situation. And not for nothing, you're also setting up Olivia, who sounds like she'd like to be talking to you throughout this particular trip, but you're not making contact with her.
Shocker.
So she wants to know what Mike is going to do. Is he going to come to the apartment? Where are you guys going to be? And you're not communicating with her. So he's just, once again, an emotional and communicative cripple, and he's doing nothing to better himself in a situation where he could probably do a lot to smooth it over.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I have been kind of pro Ethan for a lot of this podcast because I feel for him. But this episode was an episode where I'm like, okay, Ethan, I can't stand that this is how you live your life and how you conduct your relationships with people. Like, you are so emotionless and avoidant and you don't deal well with conflict. And I'm like, this is really bad. A recipe for disaster with all of your relationships. And your family understands you and understands this aspect of you, so they just deal with it. But other people like Olivia, they're never going to be okay with it. And he's just going along with it because it works for him.
Because it works for him.
That's it.
And it keeps him as comfortable as possible as he can be in any given situation. But like, this is really not going to work long term. Not with employers, not with future friendships, not with future relationships. You're going to have to learn how to open your gaga goo goo mouth and say your big boy words in order to solve conflict.
Right.
The rest of us are out here doing it. It's possible, Ethan.
Yeah.
Jesus, Mary and Joseph.
Ugh.
All right, after this, we bob on over to Tampa, Florida. We're back in Moriah's loft, and Barry is in town one day before her ballroom dancing exhibition, and they're having kind of a nice daddy-daughter moment.
Yeah.
She's making him hot chocolate, but, she's forgetting
Without the chocolate.
because it's Moriah. And the subject of Ethan comes up.
Yeah, so Barry mentions that Ethan was in town, a few days ago prior to this or something?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know when this was filmed, but he mentions that Ethan was up in town and that it was nice to see him, but that Moriah was not there. And then Moriah kind of talks about how she wishes things could be different because she doesn't want to regret anything, doesn't want to regret not being in his life and not being close, but doesn't really know how to bridge this gap between them.
Right. I thought this was a great conversation. I thought Barry could have inserted a lot of opinions about what happened to him personally with Olivia and with Ethan and with what he called like a season of conflict that he had with them.
Yeah.
But he didn't. He really just kind of held space for Moriah to whine and be depressed and to wonder what her Christian duty is in terms of her brother, because if something, God forbid, happened to Ethan, or what if he needed me and I just wasn't there? So she's moved by what she possibly wouldn't be able to give Ethan, but she's not really moved by her bad behavior that contributed to the breakdown of the relationship.
Yes. And I think this was when she also mentions her text message to him, and she says that I probably shouldn't have just opened up with, oh, I forgive you, and not give him any context, because that just opened up a can of worms. Like I should have maybe said something different.
I should have just said hi.
Yeah, exactly. So I was glad to at least see some acknowledgement there from her and some self-awareness. Like she's becoming sentient. She is a 20-year-old dum-dum, you know, and she comes from a emotionally crippled family that doesn't know how to communicate at all. So I'm glad to see that, but I'm just like, oh, you're so dramatic.
She's really dramatic. And Ethan, a couple of times in this episode, calls her over dramatic and also dishonest with the way that she is handling the situation with Ethan and Olivia. But nonetheless, Moriah also says that, she thinks that her relationship with Ethan is fixable. Again, she would want to be there for him. God forbid if something happened to Ethan, like what happened with Joshua, she would hate herself if she hadn't done something to mend this relationship. And then she segues over into discussion about Olivia. And she's like, it's different with Olivia, though.
Yeah.
There's way more damage there.
Yeah. Fuck that bitch.
Right. And she's not willing. It doesn't seem she's willing at all. And Micah's not willing either.
I wouldn't
to try to mend these fences.
Yeah.
They're
I wouldn't be
over it.
Well, because it doesn't seem like there is any room to mend anything with Olivia. It seems like Olivia just wants them to say sorry and for her to just be like, okay, cool, then we're good now. Like, just apologize to me. I've done nothing wrong to you two. I've been nothing but gracious to both of you.
Does that remind you of anybody? Crybrows Robin Brown?
Yes.
Yeah, all you have to do is pledge your fealty and kiss my ring, and you can come back into the McMansion and into the Hoarder House, and you can see my Dickensian village. I've been building it up for years.
For real.
But yeah, that's what Olivia wants. She says that she wants to have an adult conversation, but what she really wants is to be absolutely seen and heard while not seeing and hearing anybody else's side of the argument. I could be biased.
Yeah, we don't like her.
I could be biased. At the end of this segment, we have Moriah wondering if she should suggest that she and Ethan just spend some time together doing something fun. Like, we don't have to process the entire thing all at once. Maybe we can just handle it step by step, a little by little, until ultimately we get over it.
Yeah, although this doesn't necessarily happen in this episode.
No, not at all.
Sure.
No, and Barry encourages her to do something like that.
Being
but
a
it's
decent dad.
Curious to me how none of them just want to tackle issues.
I know. They just
Like,
want to avoid it.
They rug sweep for real. They just want to like have a good time. Can't we just be a family? And then underneath all of that is just this toxic sludge of dysfunction that they don't want to acknowledge.
It's so bad. That's how my family operates.
Ooh.
We do not handle conflict or deal with anything. Like everybody in the family will have problems with each other and will talk shit about each other, similar to how the Plaths handle things, but they don't actually confront each other. We don't actually deal with anything head on.
Really?
Yeah, I was really the only one in my family that would actually bring up feelings that I felt because I'm the only fire sign in the family and I can't just hold it all in. But everybody else was like totally conflict averse.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
So when you first started asserting yourself and opening your throat chakra, baby.
Girl.
So what did your family do? Like, how did they even handle that?
Well, it depends on what family member I was bringing that up to, because some were not very happy with that, and I would get yelled at or ridiculed or whatever. But you know, that's just how it is. Some people can't deal with hard emotions, especially when it means that they are at fault for something that they may not think that they're at fault for. So it damages their ego and it becomes this whole big old thing.
Yeah.
And it just seems like with the Plaths, they want to focus on their family and their love and everything instead of all of the drama, which I can understand that to an extent. But when you have these bigger issues like with Kim and with Olivia and with between Ethan and Moriah, like you can't just sweep that shit under the rug. That's going to cause bitterness and resentment.
Right.
Which is just going to make everything way worse.
Well, let me first share something and then ask you a question. I remember listening to this podcast once and they were talking about empaths. And of course, Robin Brown is an empath. Did you know that?
Yeah.
She's an empath.
I'm an empath.
But like it's the empaths in the family who feel things really, really deeply. And when you have dysfunctional, toxic families, there's usually like one empathic person in that family who's just all day, 24/7, processing the dysfunction of the family. And they're probably doing it without resources. They don't even know that they are an empath. And so they're overwhelmed, they're depressed, they're totally anxious, and they are ultimately regarded in the family as a kind of a black sheep or somebody who just doesn't fit in with the rest because they're busy over there processing all of your weird fucking energy in this family. And so I was wondering in the context of the Plaths, whether you think we have like a little empath there that's processing the energy.
I mean, by definition, it probably would be Moriah because she has been kind of the black sheep and she's regarded as over dramatic for having feelings. And well, she is dramatic in some instances, in some scenarios, yes, but I do think some of her emotions are warranted and she just doesn't really know how to communicate them properly or express them in a healthy way. So she just blows up or says stupid shit and acts like a dummy. But we've also talked about Ethan being a shadow empath where he feels everything but doesn't know how to even process that at all. So it's just bottled up inside him and he just works on cars all day.
Right.
So that's kind of my thing. Maybe it's between Ethan and Olivia.
Maybe.
Moriah.
And that's interesting too when you think about Moriah because her biggest instinct growing up was to get the fuck out of here.
Right.
Like, I don't want to have to sit with all of this energy and all of our problems and all of our patterns in this family. I just want to leave and move in with my grandma and my grandpa.
Yeah.
Or I just want to be a rebel, a forgiven rebel. And I want to be in my own loft with my dog. What was his name?
Jax?
Where's the dog?
Something, I don't know.
Where is the dog? She says he's in training, but he's in training for months.
Some people do that. I know people who do that.
Send him away for months? I feel like she rehomed the dog.
Oh, that's mean.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's sad. Okay, back to the show. The next scene, we are in Jacksonville, Florida, reminding me of Limp Bizkit. I'm a redneck fucker from Jacksonville.
Yes.
And we have Moriah with her ballroom dancing. She's in a bright yellow dress, and I cannot stand the color of her hair. Doesn't she see that it washes out her complexion?
I know.
I mean, it's like this ashy, white,
bright,
silvery color, and then she's got that dark lipstick.
I know.
They were showing some pictures from the past in this episode when she's with her brothers and she's got like natural hair.
Yes.
Or darker blonde hair, and she's stunning.
Beautiful. I know. I really do not like the color of her hair. I didn't like that dress that she was in either.
Me neither.
Like, what is that?
I mean, ballroom dancing, you have skimpy, flashy, sparkly dresses.
I know, but
it was, it's like, but she's having fun.
She's a fashionista.
And her whole family showed up for her, which I thought was awesome. Of course, sans Micah and Ethan. But you've got Kim there looking so pretty and sexy, honey. She's got a new lease on life. Somebody's hitting the box. So she's happy in her mini skirt.
Yeah.
We've got Barry, who actually looks a little studly.
He does.
With his shirt that's fitting just so around
all
his chest
pecs and his arms.
and his biceps and stuff.
Showing it off to Kim, being like, this is what you missing, baby.
That's right. With his like chain that he's wearing now. What do those kids call it? The drip?
The Riz.
He's got some Riz.
Yeah,
some
girl.
charisma. He's sitting there stewing because he can't stand his stank ass, hoe ass wife who's sitting right next to him. And then we've got Isaac, and then we've got the girls. And Moriah is so happy. And she does make a point to say, like, I'm really grateful that my parents haven't dragged all of the kids into their personal nonsense.
Not yet.
And that it's coming.
Yeah.
And that they have the ability to kind of just be in the same room and support their kids. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really great. I was looking at this. I'm like, well, this seems sweet on the outside.
Right.
But I feel like there's going to have the bitterness is going to seep through Barry and Kim, whether they like it or not. And it'll start affecting the kids. Because I feel like that happens in almost every divorce scenario between parents with kids. I feel like the parents always try at the beginning to co-parent and to be healthy role models and to be civil.
They don't always try.
They don't always try.
Take it from me.
But yeah, well, your ex-husband did not want to do shit. He didn't want to even be around you.
No,
not even in the same
anything
state.
That even resembled me, which my daughter, your wife, totally resembles me.
Yes.
So he had a hard time being around her. He literally like fell off the face of the earth.
He did.
It was wild. Like my whole family, like my brother who really liked him and felt pretty close to him, like all of a sudden never heard from him again. And he's like, I can't believe he's just gone. So I just say all of that to say that not every parent is willing to co-parent.
No. I mean, my parents tried for like the first year or something to be really good and to spend time with us kids, and then it just totally changed because bitterness comes up, and then you do something to piss off the other spouse and everything, and then it trickles down to the kids, and it's just like always going to be a mess. So I'm waiting when we see that preview with Kim.
I know.
Girl, that pissed me off so bad.
We are going to get there. Well, I have some things to say when I play devil's advocate there, just to make you really mad.
Why does the devil need an advocate?
I know. Get you to pop up. We have a couple of interesting statements. Barry says that he is happy that he's able to kind of put aside his issues, so that he can be there with Kim and his kids for Moriah. But at the same time, he certainly doesn't condone what she's doing. And in specific, he doesn't condone that she's dating Ken Palmer.
Yes.
Again, while they are still married.
Mm-hmm. And then I think the producers ask him, like, what does he think about that? And he's like, well, that's her personal life, and I'm not a part of that. So next question. I'm like, oh, I wish he would spill the tea. But he's being mature now and trying not to talk shit about her because that's still the mother of his children, and he knows that this is national TV and he doesn't want to say anything damaging, but he wants to.
Yeah, I think he's really angry. And I'm wondering what the end result of this anger is. Like, does he become a serial killer? Does he become a peeping Tom? Is he going to counseling, or is he just going to like Christian counseling?
Or just working out?
Let's open the Bible bingo and see if there's a scripture that can help you to heal from your wife of 25 years leaving you to fuck another man.
Right.
Like, is he getting any analysis and therapeutics, or is he just sitting there stewing as he's working out, building his testosterone, getting angrier and angrier? I'm worried about it a little bit.
I know. It's a little concerning.
But he's keeping it together. And then you have Kim. All she can talk about all season long is, I'm dating somebody. Do you know that I've been dating somebody? Did you hear from your sisters? You've already heard, haven't you, that I'm dating somebody?
And it's not too soon, I don't think. I think it's fine.
Which is what she kind of says in this section. She's like, yeah, well, we've been separated for 1 year, and it's never too early to be happy, honey.
Okay.
And I'm happy. I'm dating, and I'm just like, I know he's upset about it, but he can eat this box. Eat the box. I don't care. I'm going to do what I want to do. And even Ethan and Micah say she's going to do what she wants to do.
Yep, because even though all of the kids, it seems like, disagree with her decision to date another man, she's still doing it. She don't give no fucks at all about what any of the other kids say. And Lydia in this scene is like, I don't condone it at all because my mother taught me different, but I love her and I'm being a good Christian girl and I will still be around my mom.
I'm
even though
going
I
to support
disagree.
her, even though I don't support her choices.
She's a ticking time bomb,
She is
dude.
as well.
I swear.
She is as well. I'm like, again, Lydia has two roads before her. She has the continuation of her Christian journey. Jesus is Lord. She finds herself a Christian boy. She gets married like Hosanna did. They have a bunch of babies and she tours the world or the nation or Georgia singing in churches. Or she becomes a straight up promiscuous girl.
Yeah.
Who is out here living her life, having worldly experiences, secular experiences, and who chucks her faith entirely because she saw her mother do it first.
Oh, God, I'm worried about that. If she marries a Christian guy, though, that's another path that she could go down where she could end up like her mom in 20 years and eating a lot of sugar and leaving her husband. So.
Drinking the booze in the barn.
Yikes.
This particular segment ends with a picture for Moriah.
Yeah.
So Moriah wants a picture after she dances with her whole family. And you hear the photographer say to Moriah, get in the center of the photo. And then you see Kim angle her body to the center of the photo. And ultimately the photo that we see is Kim smack dab in the center of the photo.
That's
with
some
Moriah
narc shit, dude.
Off to the side. I'm like, absolute narc stuff. I texted you. I'm like, come on, lady.
I know.
This isn't about you. This is about Moriah. It's not about your mini skirt, honey. And your
thinks
pumps.
She looks so hot. She's like, I'm living vicariously through Moriah right now. It's so great because she's a ballet dancer, remember?
Do you know that Mariah's my daughter? I mean, you probably thought she was my sister. But we're both in this picture and I'm in the center. Yikes.
Big yikes.
After this, we get back into that U-Haul truck with Micah and Ethan. And Micah asks whether Ethan has told Olivia that they're coming in and what's going to happen. And he says no. He equivocates again. On the couch, Ethan says that he doesn't know how to tell Micah that Olivia doesn't want him there. He then asks Micah if he told him already. This was so weird to me.
I know.
He asks Micah, did I tell you yet that Olivia isn't thrilled you're coming? I mean, you're in Minnesota by this time.
I know.
We're seeing snow on the ground.
Yeah.
It's been, 2-3 days that you've been traveling with your brother. And so right before you get to the apartment complex, you're like, oh, by the way, did I tell you that Olivia doesn't want to see you and you're not allowed in my house?
At all?
No. Did I forget that?
Oh, I must have missed that. Ethan, you're so freaking stupid, dude. He literally waited to the last minute to do that because he was so nervous and didn't want to have to deal with this at all. He would rather not deal with any human emotion from anybody ever in his life because it just makes him uncomfortable.
Yep.
And Micah's just like taken aback. He's like, no, you didn't tell me that.
I
like,
wish you
would
would have.
have.
I might not have come with you if I knew
Yes.
that your wife at the end of this trip had a real big problem with me. It might not have been the time for me to travel here,
Right.
sir. But he doesn't say that. He's just like, no. But then he's like, yeah, but it's cool. I don't need to see her actually.
I don't care.
But then he's like, but will it make it harder for you, Ethan, if I'm here?
That was big.
Like there's a couple of times he checked in with Ethan and he's like, is my inability to go and see your wife in a one-on-one because I hate her guts gonna cause problems in your marriage? Because I don't want that. I want to preserve whatever it is that I can preserve so that we can have a relationship.
Yes. And this is why we don't like Olivia and why she's toxic AF. Because if Micah is picking up on the fact that his dislike of her or her issues with Micah and Moriah is going to affect Ethan and her's relationship, that's toxic. And for her to like always dictate whether Ethan can actually have a relationship with his family or not is toxic as fuck. And Olivia says, we'll get to it.
Okay.
We'll get to it.
Are
I know
you sure?
she says,
Don't forget to get to it.
I won't.
Okay. We'll get to it. Micah tells Ethan that he respects Olivia as his wife, but he just has a fundamental issue with her trashing the family. And it's something that's bothering him and is going to continue to bother him.
Yeah.
But again, he wants to preserve the relationship with Ethan. And this is where we have Ethan saying that before he left on the road trip, he actually told Olivia that he's done a lot to support her to the detriment and to the neglect of his family. Like, I have gone above and beyond to take care of you, make you feel heard, make you feel safe, make you feel protected, to the detriment of like my little siblings, the family that I love, the people that I grew up with and want to be around.
Yes.
So before this trip, they're already having, Olivia and Ethan, some in-depth conversations about how he ain't happy with the way she's conducting herself. And I assume she's not happy with the way he's conducting himself.
Of course not. But she's never happy with anything Ethan does, because anything he does is wrong and bad for her and their marriage.
Right.
But I thought that was huge, that he came to that realization. And this is probably why they end up breaking up, because he's realizing, wow, like my relationships with my family have suffered because I've been just accommodating you and yo-ho ass this whole entire time.
Which is, it's never enough.
Never enough.
There's not enough that I can do to make you feel okay with me having a family.
Yeah.
I can't change that. And I want to have a family. And she even says in this episode, like, look, Ethan is entitled to be around the kind of people that he wants to be around and to love his family. But if it hurts me, but when it hurts me, I expect him to be there for me, essentially.
And this is what I was going to say earlier. Her saying that is such bullshit, because by your actions of this whole entire fucking show, and probably before we even got on TLC, you've been fucking with his relationships with the family. So don't sit there and say you don't care about whoever he has relationships with.
You care very much.
You care very, very much. And you have a problem. You had a problem with him going to Cairo.
You wanted to go with him.
And seeing Micah. You didn't want him to see Micah and hang out with somebody who's disrespecting your marriage and talking about your marriage.
And I dare say she probably made it really hard for him to go on this trip to Cairo, made him feel really bad for leaving her there, even though she had just been on a trip to St. Lucia. And it has not been established whether that was for work or for pleasure. And if she was there for pleasure, who was she there with, girl?
Exactly.
That is what I want to know. This is when Micah gets a call, and it is Moriah. She is calling because she knows that Micah and Ethan are traveling on the road together, and it feels like she wants to take this time to address the elephant in the room.
Seems a little weird.
And talk about the problems. So what did you think about the conversation that Moriah ends up having with Ethan?
This whole conversation was frustrating for me as a sibling and as an older sibling, because Moriah is like trying to talk to Ethan, but she's also interrupting him. She's cutting him off. She's getting kind of reactive and not necessarily saying sorry. She's saying sorry, but then trying to justify her actions. She'll acknowledge that she was over dramatic about the whole music thing and that she apologizes for that, but then still comes at Ethan. Ethan is so inept and so doesn't want to deal with her emotions at all. When she starts crying, he gets pissed off and doesn't want to deal with that at all. And I think that's a huge problem. Like, Ethan, you have to be able to deal with people's emotions. Like, whether you like it or not, people are emotional.
Yes.
And you're going to have to be able to grow the fuck up and deal with that and be in tune with your own emotions. But he's so disconnected from how he actually feels that he cannot relate to other people's emotions. And Micah brings this up. He's like, this is frustrating to hear their conversation between the two of them, because Ethan is so emotionless and Moriah is the complete and utter opposite. And Ethan doesn't necessarily understand emotions at all. And so it's super frustrating.
Yeah. And I was wondering whether Ethan is so turned off by emotionality because Olivia has just been dumping emotions on him for 8 years straight during their entire relationship, and he's so burnt out by it, or whether it just triggers in him his inability to connect emotionally, and so he just shuts down. I don't really know. I think maybe it's a blending of the two.
I agree.
I could see, though, Ethan getting upset here. I could see him kind of sinking back into that fucking toxic masculine kind of like, well, but let me finish.
Yeah.
And I just felt like he wasn't soft with his sister.
No, he was not.
He wasn't ready to be soft with his sister. And I actually appreciated that Moriah was like, yeah, I'm not apologizing for something I'm not sorry for.
Yes.
She is not sorry for how she feels about Olivia. She is not sorry for, I think, how she has treated Olivia. She's sorry about the accusing her of stealing thing because of the way it impacts Ethan.
Right.
I don't think she gives a shit about Olivia. So I think she's trying, but at the same time, Ethan has really good points. Like, you were spending the entire summer giving me shit. You make the social media post. You don't pay your bills. You move out in the middle of the night. You block me.
Right.
Right. And you're not taking any responsibility. Like, when I'm trying to sit down and have a conversation with you so we can fix it, you're just running away.
Right.
And I'm like, Ethan, you're kind of talking to yourself.
Yep.
Isn't that what you do
Yep.
in conflicts, though?
Yep.
It bugs you because you do it too.
Exactly. And that's why it was so frustrating, because it's like she's literally doing the same things that you do, just opposite. And also, I didn't like how he kept calling her over dramatic, like just for the way that she reacts, and for her saying that he was yelling at her and being upset with her. I don't know if I believe him when he says, oh, I think that was just her being over dramatic.
And dishonest.
Yes.
So he's implying she's lying about that.
Yeah. I'm like, I think you are an emotional cripple and you don't understand how you come off to other people because of that.
Right.
And you are not compassionate to other people's emotions because of and you cannot deal with emotion.
Right. You just don't have the tools to
can't
communicate.
talk to
And it's incumbent upon you to get those tools so that you can learn to communicate with the people that are important to you. But at the same time, Moriah, you did a lot of shitty things.
Right.
And then when he was trying to deal with it with you, instead of just saying, please stop yelling at me. We are having an adult conversation. I am not 15-year-old Moriah anymore. You cannot push me around. I want to work through this with you, but stop yelling. Instead of doing that, you avoid, you block, you talk shit to everybody else about Ethan, but you don't talk to him, which is what Micah says. That's what we do in this family.
Yep.
When we have a problem, we talk to everybody else, but we don't talk to one another.
Yes.
At the end of this conversation, Moriah says, because Ethan says, I don't really know what good this conversation had. Like, we really didn't get anywhere. And Moriah says, well, I just want you to know that I love you.
Yeah.
And I want you to remember that, like, no matter what happens, how long it takes for us to get back on the same page, I love you.
Yeah.
And he doesn't say it back.
Nope.
He's like, okay, good talk. Thanks.
And then leaves the car
and gets out of the truck.
and he's pissed off.
And Micah's like, he's out of the truck and he's very, very pissed.
That was really lame.
Immature.
Well,
grow the fuck up, Ethan.
I know. I'm like, get some fucking therapy. I do think part of this is because he just deals like this with Olivia's stuff, like with her emotions. He just is not capable of handling it because of Olivia, partly because of Olivia. But they also brought up the credit card thing.
Right.
So Moriah talks about how that was all a lie that Olivia said, and Ethan stands up and he's like, no,
Where's
it wasn't a lie. Actually, go ask Olivia how mom reacted to when she told her to stop using my fucking credit card. Like, she can't do that. That's not okay. And then Moriah just kind of shoves it off and is like, well, we're just a family. Why can't we just be a family?
No, you can't say that this is a lie and then put out a social media post calling my wife a liar. And then when I tell you that objectively it's not a lie, it's exactly what happened.
Right.
You can't then just default to, well, but I mean, I don't know, the way it happened, it was just fucked up and gloss over it. That's not how that works.
I just wish somebody in the family would say, okay, even though it wasn't a lie, why did Olivia take it upon herself to say this on national TV?
Preach.
Without any of our consent. And she did it purely for the shock factor and to make everybody look...
To be punitive.
Yes.
To drag Kim.
I wish they would fucking say that and call that out, because that's the real issue here. It's the issue of Olivia stirring the fucking pot and making this family look way worse than what they really are. Like, I know Kim is terrible, okay? Like, and Kim's done some shitty things.
Yes.
She's a narc, for sure. But Olivia doesn't need to take it upon herself to shed the light on that. We can see that for ourselves. And she doesn't need to be stirring drama on the show and causing a rift in the family.
Right. And you have to remember, she did this after an entire season of shitty behavior.
Exactly.
Shitty behavior in Jamaica with Micah and Moriah. Shitty behavior at Joshua's gravesite. And then shitty behavior at the reunion at the river.
Exactly.
At the end of the season. Like, she was totally out of pocket, out of line.
Yes.
And then she makes this wild claim about Kim. Maybe it's true. Maybe it's not. Kim has never defended herself. So we kind of have to believe what Olivia and Ethan are saying.
Right.
But nonetheless, you did it publicly after you guys had made amends.
Exactly.
After you guys agreed to put it behind you. Ethan even talks in this episode about how he just wants to get his whole fucking crazy family to sit down at a table. Everybody air your grievances. Tell the next person what it is that you're hurt about or upset about. Then deal with it and let it go forever. Not to be brought up at another time, dragged out in order to punish somebody else. And let's just move on with our lives.
Right.
And see, that's precisely, I think, what Olivia did.
Yes.
Because Barry, Kim, Ethan, and Olivia had a conversation after the credit card thing and they put it behind them. But she drug it back into the light and then she put it on the national stage. And yeah, Kim and her family are pissed about it. You didn't need to do that. Kim was doing a great job showing us who she is without you piping in there, Olivia.
Right. And I understand, Olivia, that you have bitterness towards the family, but it's not appropriate to cause drama on national TV and then play the victim about it and be like, I don't know why nobody wants to have a relationship with me. I didn't do anything wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Robin Brown.
I know. Exactly. So many parallels.
Yes.
So Micah and Ethan get back on the road, and this is when Micah receives the text from Olivia. Mm-hmm. And Olivia, who again knows Micah's coming into town, she has told Ethan she doesn't want him to come over to the apartment. Olivia is sending a text to Micah asking if he wants to meet with her somewhere, just Micah and Olivia, so they can kind of just talk, hash out their issues. And I'm sure in her mind, she's thinking, and then you can come back to the apartment. Yeah. We'll be cool. We can move on from there. Mm-hmm. So Micah tells Ethan, hey, I got this text from your wiggity whack wife who just wants to stay forever in all the drama, my guy. And so what do you want me to do?
And Ethan's just like, I don't know, whatever you think is appropriate. And Micah's like, cool, I'm going to tell her I don't want to hang out with her one-on-one at all. I just want to keep things light and happy. I don't want to hash shit out. I don't want to clear the air because I don't want to have a relationship with her. Is that cool? And Ethan's like, yeah, sure, whatevs. Even though he's like panicking inside.
He's panicking, and on the couch, he's like, it would be really awesome if Micah could actually meet up with her and maybe they could talk it out. But at the same time, I do not blame him for not wanting to be in the horse shit. Yes. 10 toes down in horse shit all the fucking time. He's over it. And I get it. Yeah. But I think he really wants Micah to make the effort because I think it would go a long way with Olivia.
Would it?
I think it would go a long way with Olivia, and I think that actually would have good ramifications on Ethan's marriage because I think Olivia is always up his motherfucking ass.
I don't know, but then there's the conflict with Moriah, and Moriah won't reconcile with Olivia, so there's always going to be something that's going to piss Olivia off. Like, it's never going to be good. The Plaths are never going to give her what she needs.
No. They are not. They do not want to. They're over Olivia. And so she gets this text. And here again, we have the infliction of the narcissistic injury. Yes. She has been rejected. Access denied. You cannot come into my sphere of influence. Yep. You cannot affect my good vibes with your bad vibes. Vibe check. Vibe check. I want to keep my good vibes, Olivia. So no, like, why don't you come over to Pops when we drop off the cars? Why don't you come over to the bar? I'd love to see you. That's super cool. Just want to make sure it's light and it's good. That is what I want. And I love a king who asserts a boundary.
I love it so much.
And super cool about it. He's like, yeah, I would rather do X, Y, and Z, but you're totally invited. Come on over.
Yeah, why not?
Boundary.
I'll be cool. Yep.
And she feels it.
Oh, and she's pissed about it.
Yeah.
She is so mad. I can't be fake. I can't act happy. There's shit that I got to talk about.
Oh, God. There's always shit that you have to talk about. So Olivia's very upset. And in the last segment of this episode, we have Olivia calling her sister, Lydia Grace, who's the only person left who's willing to talk to Olivia and put up with her bullshit. And she tells Lydia Grace that Micah has refused her offer to meet in person. And just like you said, Olivia's like, well, I'm just not a fake person. I'm not just going to go out drinking at some kind of bar with somebody who talks shit about me for an entire year. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
What are you talking about?
She said that a few times.
Yes.
They have been talking shit about me. She didn't say that exactly. They've been talking about me and really crappy to me for a full year. And we're not supposed to talk.
What are you fucking talking about?
Before I see you, we're just supposed to pretend none of this is happening.
This entire season, you're talking shit about them.
That's all you do. In fact,
every time
Barry doesn't do it and he has an opportunity to talk about you. He's actually really gracious. Micah is super chill and cool. He's just saying, hey, I don't like what she did, but I'm okay to sit down with her. Even Moriah doesn't really trash her. It is Olivia.
Yep.
Constantly trashing the fam.
Exactly. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me.
Oh my God, for real. So she said a couple of interesting things here. She said that while Micah and her were texting and he was turning her down for her offer, that Ethan was there at the same time. He's driving with Micah, so he knows how this is going to affect Olivia when she is rejected. He knows she's a narc.
Yeah.
He knows she's going to be upset, and yet no call, no text, no commiseration, no compassion from Ethan, which says a lot to her. And I thought fair enough.
Oh,
actually.
yeah, for sure. I mean, Ethan really doesn't want to put any more effort in into this relationship. I feel like he may have maybe sent her a text a couple years ago, maybe, if this scenario happened back
Right.
then. But I feel like now he's just really over it, and he just doesn't want to have to accommodate for her anymore.
And hear her nagging mouth, honestly.
And I don't blame him. I really don't.
No. Lydia Grace asks Olivia if Olivia's standing her ground with regard to Micah coming over to the apartment will affect her relationship with Ethan. And Lydia ultimately says yes.
Olivia says.
Olivia says yes. And then Olivia tells us that before Ethan left for the trip to Cairo, he told her that if he would have known that being with her would have caused all this drama and chaos in his family, he would not have done it. He would not have seen her.
Do we believe that he actually said that?
I do believe. I believe it.
I think so too.
I believe it.
I mean, it's true though. Like everything fell apart when you came into the family. And I'm sorry. I know you may have tried to come in with okay intentions, like try to set boundaries. I don't know. I guess I can't really see it, but everything fell apart when Olivia came in.
Yes.
Really.
And Olivia, when she's sitting on the bed, says that him telling her that actually puts a lot of pressure on her because now she knows that this is how he feels. So she wants to make things work out, but at the same time, he's not doing what he needs to do by opening his mouth and talking to her as her husband. And I was just trying to put myself in her situation. Like if I was fighting with my husband's sibling and he knew my side of it and he knew their side of it and he was hanging out with that sibling, first of all, I would probably have an issue with that. I'd probably feel that, but I would not stop him, not unlike Olivia. But then if my husband knew I was actually talking to his sibling and it wasn't going the way I wanted, I would be butthurt if he didn't call in and check on me and say, hey, you know, I know you wanted to meet with Micah and he doesn't want to. I get that hurts. I just want you to know I love you. It's going to be okay.
Right.
Something like that.
Right. I agree. No, I feel for her in that regard, but at the same time, it's like you made your bed, girl.
Right.
Like you have caused a lot of these issues and you've caused Ethan to kind of resent you because you have destroyed a lot of his relationships with the family. And so, I mean, it's like I can't fault Ethan, but I can also fault him because he's dumb.
Right.
And he's immature and he needs to be single for a while before he gets into another relationship with somebody.
I don't know, Beatrice, when he's on the couch and he's pontificating about his relationship and his family, he actually sounds well thought out, like he's actually considered what's happening, why it's happening, what the best thing to do is. I feel like he is probably shut down a lot when he's trying to communicate what he wants. I think Olivia weaponizes his inherent love of family and uses his love for his family and his desire to be with his family as a weapon against her. Oh, you want to be with them. That means you don't love me or you don't support me enough or this isn't a safe space. This is my home and I get to say no to who I want to have in my home. Even though all he wants to do is see his brother and hang out with his brother and show him his apartment. You know what I mean?
Track with her being a narc for sure. And that's what narcs do. They isolate and then they make you feel guilty for having normal human emotions. But then I'm just like, Ethan, stand up for yourself a bit then with your relationship with her. Like, just be honest. Like, he can't be the Ethan on the couch that he is with Olivia. You know what I'm saying? Like, he can't put two and two. So it's really annoying to me.
I think when he tries to do that, I bet she's pretty reactive because he seems really reticent to open up and say how he feels. But when he does, when he's alone on a couch with just a producer, he has the ability to explain and articulate himself.
Right.
He's probably just been batted away so many times.
Yeah.
We also hear Olivia say that anytime Ethan does go and spend time with his family, he hunkers down with him and there's all these secrets and this dishonesty and there's no compassion. And she's like, if my family were to do that to Ethan, like if my family treated Ethan the way Ethan's family treated me, I would go above and beyond to make sure I protected him. And you know what? I don't believe it.
I don't believe it at all.
I don't believe it. And I feel, by the way, Ethan has gone above and beyond.
Yes.
He took you to Europe, girl. He moved away to Minnesota. He's gone and lived in a new place every single year.
Yep.
He has ridden for you.
He almost got in a fight with his dad.
Right.
Because
Physical
of
altercation.
the issues with you. So, like, I mean, he has been trying his hardest. It's just never, ever enough. And I don't think you would defend him against your family. Because if he had problems with Lydia Grace, you'd be like, well, that's my sister.
Right.
So it's double standards.
Yes, she's only double standards, unfortunately. The episode ends with Lydia asking, well, what happens if Micah comes over to the apartment anyway? And she's like, you know what? Him saying no to meeting me one-on-one, that's one thing. You know, wanting to hang out and keep it light, that's one thing. But if you're going to walk up in my house after you know I don't want you to be here, all bets are off.
That's fair. I mean, it
Also
is her
fair.
house.
It
I
is.
mean, that's fine.
So does this feel like that's exactly what they're setting them up to do?
Well, Ethan in the U-Haul was like, well, I kind of feel like I should just drop by with Micah, but I know that that's going to piss Olivia off because it's her space and she set that boundary. And I'm like, ooh, you're testing the waters,
So
my
if
guy.
Micah does come into the apartment with Ethan, do you think that Olivia has the ballies to actually say something? I don't think so. I actually really don't think so.
I think she'll be passive aggressive. She'll be distant, but I don't think she's going to actually say what she wants to say. She's all talk.
So. Yep, I don't think so either. And so that is how the episode ends. We have the preview, of course, for next week, wherein we see our girl Kim complaining that Barry is getting all the praise because he's stepping up a little bit. But here she is, having done all the work for 25 years, and she gets no recognition.
Bitch, this pissed me off so much.
Why?
So much.
Why?
You are out here hoeing around after your divorce with no regard
There's
for
no
your
divorce.
kids.
They're still
There's
married.
no divorce, actually. Your separation.
Mm-hmm.
And you want recognition for what? For educating them poorly when they were homeschooled? For eating all the sugar and depriving them of that? Like, what are you talking about?
What she's talking about is not that she's not getting recognition. It's that Barry is.
God forbid.
So she's jealous that the kids are gravitating to Barry, who, again, going to the gym, showing up, cooking for his kids, taking time out, trying to stand in the gap that was left behind when Kim left the family. And she wants to be celebrated and praised for everything she did for 25 years. But she's not getting any of it. Barry's getting all of it.
And I understand that I understand that she's bitter because Barry was an absent kind of father. Like, he was working all the time. He wasn't really present for 25 years. And she's raising a gaggle of kids by herself.
Well, she's having Lydia raise them.
Well, yes. She's having the kids raise each other. And so I understand where the bitterness would come from. But, like, get a fucking grip, lady. He is stepping up because that's what you're supposed to do when you separate. You're supposed to fill both shoes of the mom and the dad, right? He's trying to be more present in his kids' lives because he knows he has to be. He's a single parent now. So what, you're going to fucking fault him for that?
Yes, because she's not getting the adoration or the praise. This is what that's what a narcissist would feel in that situation. She wants to get it all and none for him. Bitch. That was wild. But I mean, at the same time, she kind of has a little bit of a point because no matter how much better of a job she could have done, and she could have, right? She could have equipped her children to at least get a fucking GED, which she did not do.
Right.
But she did homeschool those kids. Those kids have skills, talents, and abilities that most children do not have. They have good heads on their shoulders. Kim had a lot to do with that. It is a bitter pill to swallow to see all of that recognition now going to Barry, who's like showing up for like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And also I want to stand up for Barry too. Like, a man having to go to work from sun up to sundown isn't an absentee father necessarily.
Right. Yes.
He's working for his kids. So those kids can have food on their table and get an education, whatever education they can cobble together for those kids. So he can buy them cattle so that they can teach him these life skills. Barry facilitated that by the work that he did, which is just as valuable. Just because he wasn't there in terms of FaceTime doesn't mean his contribution was less than hers.
Agreed. Yes.
Okay. We are on the same page with that. We also see Isaac and Barry arrive in LA, and Barry has like some fancy shoes. He's got the drip and the riz, as it were. And so cute.
The swag.
We see that Ethan is telling Olivia that she has completely changed since they've been married, and he's frustrated. And Olivia, in a moment of what looks like vulnerability, says that she was young when they got married and she didn't know who she was. And so, of course, a lot has changed. And this is when Ethan asks if there's any world in which they can make this work. And we look at Olivia. She's got tears in her eyes. And if you look at Ethan, as we're looking at Olivia, you can see him shaking his head no.
I believe it because he can't relate to her anymore. She's
No.
changed so drastically that they can't even mesh well together. It's like the whole opposites attract thing doesn't right now. Doesn't
No.
with this anymore.
And my feeling is they're not banging because if she was banging him, it would cover a multitude of sins. There's a lot of things he wouldn't be paying attention to if he was getting that cookie on the reg.
That's true.
But I think they're probably not fucking.
my
And so
God.
everything is breaking down and everything is bad and they're going to break up.
100%. It's kind of interesting to see.
Yeah, it is.
It's so quick. Like
It's happening very quickly, kind of like the way Kim left Barry.
Yeah.
Is the way Ethan and Olivia are exploding their marriage as well.
The parallels are so fascinating.
Yes. Good episode. You were right.
I told you.
Yeah, lots and lots of layers in this one.
Yes.